In my last video, I quickly went through the problems with Call of Duty's campaigns, and I was mainly talking about its restrictive gameplay and how it's more like a movie that pretends to be interactive instead of an actual video game. But now in this video, we're going to be going over ways to fix the Call of Duty campaigns. But before I could continue, I have to make one thing clear. This is just an idea from a guy who has no experience in developing games or their levels, and if you disagree or want to add more, just go ahead and tell me down in the comments. With that said, let's first see what Call of Duty campaigns have now and still need. One thing is that it has to be noob friendly. I would much rather have campaign be noob friendly than multiplayer or zombies. And yes, at least one mode has to be noob friendly, because if Call of Duty doesn't bring in new players, it will slowly die, and new players need a place to start. And of course it has to be all the other normal campaign things, like being story based, at least 8 hours, fast paced, and action heavy. But now time for some new ideas. How about making it replayable? Add some strategy to it, let you play the levels in different ways, and be able to prep for big battles, and make the big battles a push-shove situation. And when I'm going to be saying big or main battles, I'm talking about like the climax ones that they build up like 3 times throughout the game, if you guys are wondering what I mean by that. And I'm not just going to say what it needs, but I'm also going to give some ideas on how to implement them in-game. So let's start off with a quick and easy fix that could be easily done in any Call of Duty campaign right now. And this in itself would probably help the campaign so much. How about when I die, don't respawn me in the exact same spot or a few feet away from where I just died. I mean, for reals, punish the player for dying. Dying is supposed to be a bad thing. Let them fear death. Because right now, death in campaign means nothing, and it's stupid. And I'm not saying that you should have to restart an entire mission for dying just once, especially if you're playing on veteran, although I wouldn't entirely be against that, but there's so many other ways to do it properly. Make a manual checkpoint system. Remember those back in the PlayStation 1 games? It just made it that much harder. Or maybe next time you respawn, you lose something that you can never get back, or just something to punish them for dying, because in the current system, it means absolutely nothing, or it's just a part of playing the campaign. It's nothing to be scared of or avoided. But of course, they should keep this system in-game for noobs, because like I said, it still has to be noob friendly. But when you pump up that difficulty, it should disappear. The next area we're going to be looking at is how you play levels, and just how you currently have your quote-unquote different types of missions, stealth, big battle, and normal. It should stay that way, but actually make the levels different. Really, the levels feel exactly the same. Well, not stealth missions, those are actually really good, especially COD 4, but that's besides the point. But your normal missions and your main missions feel exactly the same. But there's a way to make these levels better and more unique to themselves. And we'll get into normal missions in a bit, but right now let's stick to the big missions, because this is where we could really change things up. I believe we already have a really good answer to this, and that's war. The war mode would be great for campaigns. The big battle missions, you could slowly force your way to your main objective, just like you do in war, by breaking through smaller objectives. Maybe take out an AA gun first, for you can have air support later. Push an area, hold an area, all before you get to your main objective. Make it a push-pull type of level, and let you fail objectives, but not fail the level itself. Example being, like what I said with the AA gun. If you fail to destroy the AA gun, the level continues, but now you do not have air support. This could also help the war mode itself as it is right now. You could have war levels that are both in the war mode and campaign. And this would also, again, help expand the lifetime of campaign itself, because when you add more war missions, you add more campaign missions through the DLC season, since we already know war missions are going to be added in throughout the DLC season. But of course, this can't be done to all missions, because that would be dumb, so this leads me into my next idea on how to fix normal campaign missions. And my biggest problem with the current campaign missions is their lack of unique gameplay experiences, and this seems to be an easy fix. They only have to change the games that much. Just let me attack the enemy in a different way. I see the same gameplay no matter who it is, no matter what. If you're playing the same level, your gameplay is going to look exactly the same. Well, relatively. And there's a bunch of ways to do this, and one of these ways is something that they've been doing in multiplayer for so long. Make it a multiple lane system. and not all the time, but just at points of the level where it matters. You could have your very linear parts of your maps, but when it matters, let the player attack the enemy in a different way. And it doesn't have to be drastically different, it just has to be a different way to attack them. Just like in multiplayer, you have to make a choice every time. You have the high risk, high reward path, play it safe, flank, or really just any different type of paths. There really doesn't have to be that many, maybe just two. They don't have to be completely different like multiplayer, they could be kind of the same. There's so many multiplayer maps you can look back to and kind of add those into the main action areas of the map. Pathing isn't the only way that you could change it up. You could also have a proper progression system, because the current progression systems, if there are any, they're not that great and they don't change the game that much. But what if you could do things like call an airstrike once a level, call in some AI bots, or just something like that with your progression system? Just get these upgrades that help you that are maybe one-time uses, but really change it and let you play the level in a different way. So that'd be another thing to work on, is the progression system, because the Call of Duty campaigns that do have it, they are really bad. But finally, the last type of missions, stealth. These type of missions are probably the campaign's strongest points, and really the only thing I have to say about them is to add more, but not as main missions. Of course, some of them being main missions, but not all of them. Probably most of them not main missions, but more like optional missions, similar to how IW's campaign had stealth side missions, where you would go and take out top people in the SDF before you would even play the normal levels. And this would be great until you realize that even if you completed all of these side missions, all of these side stealth missions, it would make no difference to any other level. So what I'm suggesting is, if you do these side missions, it should have an effect on your main missions. An example would be if you hack into the enemy's alarm system on a side mission, then when you're playing the main mission, you wouldn't have to deal with as many enemies. But what if you could also have only one attempt at each of these stealth side missions, and you had the option to fail? And if you do fail, instead of making the level easier, it makes it harder. Another risk-reward system. And I would absolutely love if they introduced more of this risk-reward system that they have in both zombies and multiplayer and moved it into campaign. And that's about it for the changes that I think that are realistic and that really need to happen. But now I'll touch on some ideas that I would love to see but doubt if they would ever happen. And one of these is, what if you didn't play in every mission? Because realistically, you can't be everywhere. And if you had to choose between levels that you deemed more important than the other, and you had to trust rather an AI group or a co-op friend to complete the other one. And just like in real life, the world doesn't depend just on you, it depends on a lot of people, and this would simulate that feeling. It would also help out the co-op experience that is really bad or non-existent in a lot of their campaigns. This also leads into my next idea, adding more strategy to the mode by choosing, like I said a while ago, which level you could take part in, or the order you could play the missions in. An example would be if you play a mission where you killed the enemy's second in command, by the next mission they'd be less organized, or maybe it won't always work in your favor. Another example would be if in your previous mission you hacked their security systems, but now they built a defense against it. Nothing too gameplay changing, but just enough. And finally, for my last and most grand idea out of all of them, a long-term strategy-based PvP campaign. I know this sounds crazy, and it probably is, and this is why it's probably not going to happen, but just imagine everything I just said so far, it would work perfect with it. War to fight in the main battles, it would be the only time you directly fight against each other, and the rest you would fight against their AI teams, and they would fight against yours, but it would matter the order you attack them in, or the stealth missions you decide to do to secretly hinder them without them knowing, unless you fail. That would just be so cool. And now that I think about it, it's really more like a war simulator than a Call of Duty campaign, and I would absolutely love it. And that's about it for me, and I would love to hear what you guys think about this reformed Call of Duty campaign idea. Are you guys liking the idea? Not so much? Let me know down in the comments. But if you guys enjoyed the video and left a thumbs up, subscribe, bell, and or shared, I thank you guys so much for doing so. But I'm gonna go, and I will catch you guys on my next video.